Healing Minds and Souls, a faith-based community dedicated to bringing trauma-informed care to the North Nashville community and surrounding areas through education, resources, and building relationships to develop healthy and a holistic community. Pastor Ella Clay will be talking about how we can stop allowing fear to overtake us regardless of our past, present, or future. Come and learn how to recognize signs and symptoms of trauma as we understand the emotional, physical, social, and spiritual impact of traumas. We will unpack the meanings of vicarious traumas and how to avoid moral injury as we actively avoid re-traumatizing ourselves and others. Let's learn together how to navigate life challenges of grief, trauma, pain, and/or isolation, and discover our innate strengths of courage, kindness, trust, perseverance, and become better equipped to experience a newfound confidence by not letting circumstances define our current existence or future selves. Join our show today with Pastor Ella Clay. She serves as senior pastor of the historic First Community Church and executive director of Healing Minds and Souls, 1815, Knoll Street, Nashville, Tennessee, 37208.
Good morning. We welcome you to Healing Minds and Souls. We are experiencing the pleasures of the Lord where there's fullness of joy, and at God's right hands there are pleasures forevermore. Thank you again for being with us, and we'll be right back with you after we hear from our sponsors.
Are you tired of missing out on North Nashville's hidden gems? Our business library is your gateway to the city's best-kept secrets. Discover local hotspots, from mouth-watering restaurants to cozy hotels, and everything in between. But we don't stop there. Tune into our exclusive podcast for insider tips and book tickets effortlessly for top venues like the Grand Ole Opry, Tennessee Performing Arts Center, and the Municipal Auditorium. And sports fans? We've got you covered too. From the Titans to the Predators, you can purchase your tickets and secure your seats. From the North Nashville Library, don't let another exciting opportunity slip away. Click the link below to unlock the full potential of North Nashville living today.
Hope Station, from our heart to yours. Hope Station serves as a resource to bridge the gap between financial need and financial empowerment. We offer financial assistance programs and resources to families facing urgent circumstances. Our ultimate goal is to encourage and support women as they work to build up our community and future generations. Standing as a door of opportunity, connection, and new beginnings for families in need, in all that we do, we aim to preserve the dignity of those we serve. Our mission is to assist single working mothers who would normally not qualify for any state assistance due to salary caps, but need emergency help with utility, water, and rent or mortgage. Give us a call today at 615-480-2765 or visit our website at www.hopestationtn.org for more information.
Are you tired of fad diets and one-size-fits-all fitness programs that don't deliver results? Fitness Nation USA's Bodied by Jen and Jen and Juice offer a comprehensive wellness solution tailored to your unique needs. From personalized one-on-one coaching to energizing group classes, custom meal plans, and all-natural cold-pressed juices, we've got everything you need to transform your body and life. Our expert-led programs and products have already helped thousands achieve their health goals. Ready to join the fitness revolution? Visit jenandjuice.net today and take the first step towards a healthier, happier you.
On this morning, we have Miss Coletta Crawford. She has been a nurse midwife since 1994. She began her nursing career in 1979. She has caught nearly 1,000 babies and has the privilege to participate in a traditional birth attendant training in Sierra Leone, West Africa in 2006. She currently provides family health care at Harmony Family Health Care with Dr. Ethel Robertson. Her passion for overcoming the scourge of failing health is the fuel by the ire that comes from working in the trenches daily fighting the battles against preventative diseases. Understanding that for many disorders like hypertension, diabetes, and obesity are preventable. She believes that we're all accountable for our health and well-being for ourselves and our communities. Today, she has come to invite you to realize your personal accountability. And we certainly are happy that you're here with us on this beautiful morning.
Thank you so much for allowing me the privilege.
You are welcome. I tell you, I looked at your bio and really stood in awe of the fact that you, the nurse midwife, God has given you this gift to assist babies to come into this world. That's such an honor and a privilege. And not only that, but the fact that you are there alongside of the mothers, guiding them and helping them to bring forth birth. What an awesome, awesome charge that you have.
You know, the way I look at it, every single infant that is born changes our planet forever. And they have a reverberating impact. You know, I think about examples in history. You know who Mahatma Gandhi is?
Mm-hmm.
He fought for the independence of the people in India. He had been a lawyer, and then he decided that his people needed to be free. Then there was this little boy born in the United States. His name was Martin. And Martin heard about and understood Mahatma Gandhi's passion for his people. And he took up the charge. And look at where we sit. We've had an African American president. We're about to have another
Yes, we are.
African American
Yes, indeed.
president. Who would think that a little boy born in India would impact a little boy born in the United States? So we all have a global impact of some sort. I believe that every time a baby is born, that baby's global impact begins.
Wow.
And so the investment that mother and daddy make into this baby is going to determine whether he will have a positive or a negative impact.
That's so deeply powerful, provoking, thoughtful, riveting, how you just shared. Oftentimes we think it's just a baby, right? But understanding that God has ordained this particular soul, this particular body to come into the earth realm at this particular time, has destined for it to happen. I believe that if mothers and if we begin to see birthing as that process, we would probably set a better example. We would understand the importance of legacy, understand the call on the individual's life, because we're all connected, right?
Exactly.
You talked about Mahatma Gandhi, you talked about MLK, and how there's always a connection because we come with one blood in one nation.
Right. That's right.
So understanding that is so absolutely powerful that you, again, go back to you called probably over 1,000 babies. And so what does that feel like? What does that do for you?
I just want you to imagine Moses parting the Red Sea. It had never happened before. He stood there, and the power of God enabled him to part the Red Sea. That's what a birth is like to me. I get so excited. Everyone is the first one for me. you know, because when I'm there, that baby's eyes opens and looks straight at me. And often people think of babies as a blank sheet of paper. They're not. I have proof. I have proof.
Sure about that.
I have a friend whose son is probably 40 now. But when he was 3, she saw a pregnant lady, and it was a teachable moment. So she said to her son, "There's a lady, and she has a baby in her tummy. You used to be in my tummy. I bet you don't remember." He said, "Yes, I do."
Wow.
So, of course, Mom didn't believe him. You know, children in fantasy. She said, "Son, what do you remember?" It was dark, and there was lots of water. Now, let's think about that statement. Dogs and cats know what darkness is, and they know what water is, but they can't tell you about it. Right? Baby understood the concept of darkness and understood the concept of water. There were no words for this baby to associate with those two concepts. He had to remember it from his fetal life and report it when he was 3. So he understood these two concepts and eventually had words to associate with the concepts and then retain the memory until he was 3 to tell his mother. Does that give you any idea of the awareness and brilliance of a fetus? And if he was able to do that as a fetus, what was he doing once he was born?
My goodness.
So I told this story to one of my patients when she was in labor. She said, "I had the same experience with my son." I said, "Well, what did he say?" She asked him what colors he saw. He said, "It's kind of red or kind of purple." Have you ever taken a flashlight and shown it through your hand? What are the colors? Red and purple. So what does that mean? A fetus saw a color. Didn't have a word for it. He had to get old enough to get a word for it, then retain the memory long enough to report it to his mother. And I say, if one fetus is able to do it, they all do. If there is one parrot on this earth that can talk, all parrots talk. Do you get my concept?
Wow.
And so when you're holding that sweet little baby who does not seem to have awareness, that's not true. Another mother was breastfeeding her little girl. I guess she was about 9 months old. She abruptly stopped breastfeeding. There was nothing mother could do to get the baby to breastfeed. So one day, she said to her mom, "Mom, your milk started tasting funny, and I didn't like it anymore." So what the little girl meant is that at 9 months old, she made a choice and stuck with it. Does that tell you anything about babies, about infants? And see, children are invisible people. What do you mean, Carlotta? Okay. The children are watching cartoons on Saturday morning. There's a horrible fight between mom and dad in the kitchen. The mom and dad are thinking about the horrible fight, not the kids watching cartoons. They're not even paying attention. Yes, they are. For them, the relationship between man and woman is being defined by what they experience at home. See, the kids are in the house with mom when daddy comes home. When Daddy's foot hits that step, Mama gets nervous. She starts mumbling to herself. She starts saying things in the air about Daddy. And the kids know it's time to be invisible because it's not going to be pleasant. Or Daddy's foot hits the steps. And they look at Mama. She all giddy and silly. Oh, Daddy's home. And when Daddy comes home, big embrace and hug and kiss and how was your day? And oh, I missed you. Do you see the messages?
I see the messages, absolutely.
And when I'm doing women's health, women come, they carry their burden all day. And it's so heavy now I need to put it somewhere. So they've been strong for weeks, months, days, years. They come in and they decompress. And they'll say things like, Miss Carlotta, if there are 100 men in the room, I'm going to pick the 3 that's going to beat me. Why is that? And I say, what was your relationship like with what was your dad's relationship like with your mother? Was he abusive? Yes. See, children come to the planet not understanding what a man is or what a woman is. Those things are defined for them. When I meet young men who have lots of kids by different women, my question is, what was your relationship like with your mother? Well, she wasn't there. My grandmama raised me. What did his mother teach him? That the woman that you love more than life can't be trusted to have your back.
And so that's why individuals go from one relationship to another. Exactly. We're going to get back to that. One of the things I wanted to ask, so we can have an idea a little bit more, and thank you for all of that. It's so much to unpack, all of the information you shared. What was your impetus for bringing you to do this type of work that you're doing? What happened in your life? How did you know that this is what you were put here on earth to do?
Well, I have to share a bit about my mother.
Okay.
When I was a little girl, maybe 5, 6, my mother went to work for a family. He was a dentist, and he had a wife and 3 little girls. The wife had contracted polio with her last pregnancy, and she could move her head and her foot. My mother was that woman's nurse. Now, you have to know a little bit about someone who's paralyzed. They're at great risk for poor health, early death, bed sores. This woman didn't even have a red spot on her body. She was on a ventilator that breathed for her. Now imagine this in the 60s. This machine was at her bedside, and she had a little hole in her neck, and it was connected, and so she could not breathe on her own. If the lights went out and the machine wasn't working, Mama had to hook an ambu bag and breathe for her until the lights came back on. Now remember, there are 3 little girls in the house. So my mother was the housekeeper, the nurse, and the surrogate mother for these 3 children. Remember, you learn to speak the language that you grew up with. So I learned the language of caring. Then I went to college, and I was pre-med, and I hated every minute of it. Then I switched to nursing, and it just, whoosh, I just cruised right on through. And then I became a nurse and moved to Tennessee, and I worked in one of the hospitals here. First, I worked pediatrics, sickest babies I ever did see in my life. Couldn't do that forever because I couldn't watch children die. Then I went to labor and delivery. After about the second day, I said to one of the other nurses, "I come here and work for free. This is amazing." And I said, "Don't tell anybody I said that because I don't want to work for free, but I would. This is amazing." So I worked in labor and delivery, and then I witnessed things happen to women when they were birthing. Loss of autonomy. You know, not really understanding what's going on. Terrified. Because let's look at the way our community watches, views birth, the society. If something about pregnancy is going on TV, the soap operas, the different shows on something terrible is going to happen. And mama is either going to die or almost die. That's not birth. The human race would not have been perpetuated by weak women who couldn't give birth. Let's look at birth on the planet. Women are powerful. They are a vessel. And their body contains another human being. Let's think about it. If you get the flu, a tiny little virus that can't even be seen with a regular microscope will put you on your back for weeks. Yet, you can carry a 9-pound human being with different blood type than your own. And your body says, okay, we'll deal with it. Look at what God did.
God is awesome.
It is
God
amazing.
Is absolutely
so
awesome.
I feel so privileged to be present. Because in the environment where women's autonomy had been stripped away, it was me and them, and I closed the door.
One of the things that I wanted you to speak to, the way you practice medicine, the way you practice, should I say holistic health cares? I think that's what I should say. You and Dr. Robertson are phenomenal in what you do, and it's not the type of practice oftentimes the Western civilization has taught us to practice. And so you all practice from, again, the emotional perspective, physical perspective, oftentimes just sitting down talking to individuals. You shared a little bit ago about when people come in, oftentimes they're very heavy. What brought you all to the realization to know that you needed to practice differently than what oftentimes has been taught in medical schools? Of course, you have to use those practices, right? You have to use the things that has been taught as it relates to the boards. But how did you come to the realization that you needed to incorporate more with your practice?
What we have to realize is within that body there is a soul, there is a mind, there is a spirit. The mind, body, and soul have a connection. I can give you a pill for it all day long, but you're not going to come to wellness until your mind is well. So let's think about it. People have habits that impact their health. Okay? So I'm stressed out, I'm emotionally traumatized, and I carry baggage all day long. So when I finally get home, I'm going to do something to make it feel better. I'm going to eat anything that is not nailed down. And when I feel bad, I'm going to eat. And I'm going to eat. We once had a patient that weighed almost 700 pounds. What was her drug of choice? Food. Or I'm going to kick back a couple of beers. Ain't no harm in a beer, is it? I'm just going to kick back a couple. And a couple becomes 4 or 5. 4 or 5 becomes 6 or 7. Now remember, the invisible people are in the house. The babies. You're teaching them how to deal with their stress. Okay. Or I'm going to smoke some weed. You know, weed is organic. It's natural. Weed ain't going to hurt. Well, I need to help people understand that heroin comes from the most beautiful plant, a poppy. Just because it's a plant God made doesn't mean you should be using it.
It's interesting how we can create a narrative for what we want to do and what pleases us. So how do you communicate that individual with your patients? Because oftentimes, we're living in a society where people get so offended when you're trying to enlighten them or help them to have a different understanding. So what ways are you able to help people to come to an understanding that it could be an addictive type of, sometimes personality, a coping mechanism? Share some of the things that you can do to help people come to an understanding.
Well, I talk about consequences.
Okay.
If you are 5'2" and you weigh 300 pounds, there's a self-esteem issue there usually. My message to them is you are perfectly wonderful and gorgeous just as you are. You don't have to lose 1 ounce to be beautiful. You're beautiful just like you are. You are perfection in God's eyes when it comes to your countenance and your person. But let's talk about physics for a minute. Your knee is a shock absorber. Okay? So let's take a Volkswagen and put 2 tons on top of it and expect the Volkswagen to drive. What's going to happen to the shock absorbers? And those are your knees. Those are not my knees. Those are your knees. And when they start hurting, you're going to experience that pain. That's why you need to lose weight. Let's talk about your pancreas. Your pancreas makes insulin. And your pancreas, like your heart, is a long-distance runner. We just watched the Olympics. Those sprinters, what was her name? Sha'Carri Richards? What was her name? I mean, they ran so fast, so quick. Sometimes you didn't even really, they just moved from. And what would happen if we asked a long-distance runner, because the long-distance race, they run 26.5 miles. What would happen to a long-distance runner if we asked them to sprint the whole way? It wouldn't make it, and neither will your pancreas. So if you ask your pancreas to make enough insulin for 2 people, it's going to burn out.
How do they normally take the conversations when you share from their perspective? Because oftentimes when you go in a doctor's office now, they will see you for what you said you come in for. If you try to share, I have another concern, they don't have time for that. And that's one of the things I know that you and Dr. Robertson practice. You spend time and you look at individuals. You dignify individuals. So I would think that when you share from their perspective, are they able to hear you from a different level? Do they understand? Is it a long time, long journey coming alongside of them, or do they get it immediately? What does that look like?
First visit is going to be a long visit.
Okay.
I'm going to go through your history thoroughly. And then I'm going to come up with a list of health issues. And I'm going to talk to you about your goals for your health and wellness. And we're not talking about this moment that we're sitting in this chair. We're talking about from here on. What kind of quality of life do you want? What's your goal? I want to be healthy, and I want to age well, and I want to do this, and I want to do... See, I set them up. I set them up. You have all of these goals. What are you willing to do to reach the goal? What kind of sacrifice will you make? And that's when I try to paint pictures for them to understand why they need to change. Yesterday, I taught a cooking class at the Peggy Alsop Arborist over on Ed Temple. And the ladies that were around me were elderly. They've been eating the way they've been eating for a long time. And it was a diabetes class. And, well, I don't like this and I don't like that, and I ain't gonna do this and I ain't gonna do that. And I'm like, when you're diabetic, you can eat the way you want. You don't ever have to eat right. You don't have to. If you don't want your toes and your eyeballs and your kidneys, they're yours. If you want to dispense with them, you may.
Oh, my goodness.
You have to be blunt sometimes.
So that's the accountability piece that you said.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
When we are dealing with, you said hypertension, diabetes, or other diseases, that there's a certain amount of control that we have. Would you say all control? And I'm thinking even because some, back to the generational lineage, some things are passed down generationally. And so I'm thinking, though, although it may be generationally, how much of it have we contributed to, because we've seen the patterns, the invisible people that have seen the patterns throughout their families.
Well, let's go back to the Middle Passage. The slave ship that left the shores of Africa contained a different genetic mix than the ones that arrived on the shores of the Americas. What happened? People who could not tolerate severe dehydration. Now let's think about it. We are in the hull of a ship on the equator. Nobody's making sure that it's fresh air and that it's cool enough, or that you're getting enough to drink or enough to eat. They're packed like wood in the hull of a ship. Dehydration was rampant. If you could not tolerate dehydration, you died and you were thrown overboard, which is why sharks used to follow the ships. Okay? So the genetic mix of people who arrived on these shores had the ability to tolerate severe dehydration, which put them at greater risk for high blood pressure. Another example of that is the Native American population, the Trail of Tears. If you know anything about the Trail of Tears, they gathered up all the Native Americans and marched them through desert conditions to where they would be on the reservations. Did they make sure they had balanced meals every day? No. They died of starvation. The people who arrived at the reservations could tolerate not being able to eat for long periods of time because their blood sugars were just a little on the high end of normal. You get what I'm saying? So the people that arrived at the reservation were at risk for diabetes, and diabetes is rampant in the Native American population.
Wow. So the predispositions
That
because
we can't
of
do
historical
can't do anything about that.
factors, and also generational factors, implications that we oftentimes continue to maybe eat in unhealthy ways, exasperates the challenges that we're dealing with.
Right, right. Think about the slave population.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of meat did they get? The
Yeah.
entrails,
Mm-hmm.
the feet,
Mm-hmm.
the ears,
Mhm.
the tail.
Yeah.
You know, the most unhealthy parts of the meat. And women being who they are, they made it good.
Oh my goodness.
They made it so good.
Yes, yes, yes.
And remember, however you eat becomes part of your legacy that you pass on.
Yes.
It becomes part of the destiny that you create. So if mama cooked it, I'm going to cook it.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things about my mother is my relatives used to kind of pick at the way she ate because she ain't very healthy. I had to teach myself how to like candy because we didn't have it. You know, you go to school, everybody else eating candy. I want to eat candy. But most of the candy that people ate was disgusting to me, so I wouldn't eat it. So fruits and vegetables and no candy and no fast food and, you know, she would season with very little fat and very little sodium, so I learned to eat that way. And my mom's 90, doing quite well.
Wonderful.
Okay?
Wonderful.
So the way we eat, our nutrition becomes part of our tradition. Let's think about Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. There's going to be a ham, there's going to be a turkey, there's going to be mac and cheese and dressing and big fat fluffy rolls.
Turnip greens oftentimes
And-
cooked in pork.
Cooked in pork, and those are all most of that's carbohydrates, okay? And then there's the pound cake. Oh, it's just plain pound cake. Yeah, it's okay. It don't have no icing on it. It's just plain with a pound of butter in it and a pound of sugar in
And
it.
2 or 3 other desserts.
Right. And that's typical. When people come back to me, my diabetics from the holidays, we start from scratch again.
Oh my goodness.
Those are our traditions, and our traditions are killing us. So my message yesterday to my class was, can we tweak it?
Mm-hmm.
Can we figure out how to save the soul in our food, yet keep our hearts?
You are just bringing so much to light, and thank you so much even for the educational piece, historical factors. And so you think about all that the generational things that we have grown up with, and trying to address the health disparities alongside of that, which is a double-edged sword. Because we know that we have our challenges as our community. But then when you go to get health care, we still oftentimes are not treated the way others are. So what would you say to that? How would you speak to the health disparities?
You have to be a good healthcare consumer.
Say more.
If you act like you don't care about your health, I'm going to raise the curtain on healthcare. I used to work for the first health maintenance organization that ever existed. I'm not going to name a name, but it's the first one. And I had 15 minutes to see my OB patients.
How long?
15 minutes. So any labs that were done last time,
My goodness.
I got to look at the labs, figure out if anything was wrong.
Wow.
I've got to do the assessment and have my hand on the door to leave in 15 minutes. And my worth as a provider was measured by how many people I could get through the door and get out. That was the system. Okay? Now, to be honest, I stayed in trouble because I didn't care about that 15 minutes. And my patients would sit and wait. And the receptionist told me one time, She said, nobody's ever told you this, I'm going to let you know. They make me ask your patients if they want to be seen by somebody else because they've been waiting. And they all say, nope, I'm waiting.
Wow.
Because when my turn comes, she's going to listen to me. Okay? So the system is set up. Let's think about this. If the appointments, if the provider starts seeing people at 9, he's going to see people from 9 until 12. Then you have a 1-hour lunch break. And then we're going to see people from 1 to 4:30. How are you going to see 30 people? How are you going to see 30 people? How much time are you going to spend with them?
My goodness.
Okay? That's systemic within healthcare. And that's why Dr. Roberts and I stepped outside of that system. We're not rich. We could see more patients, but we don't. Because we want to provide care for human beings and the whole person. Okay? So, how can you become a good healthcare consumer? You go to that appointment prepared. Understand the disease that you have. Understand what you need to do to optimize your health with that disease. In my diabetes class yesterday, now I'm talking to diabetic people. Have you ever had a nutritionist appointment? No. What? Wait a minute. Let me ask, maybe you didn't understand my question. Have you ever been to a nutritionist? No, ma'am. So how are you going to manage your blood sugars if you don't know what to eat? They did not understand the concept of carb counting. They did not understand glycemic index. Two of the bedrock things that a diabetic should know. And here, they're not my patients. So I ask them, when you go back to your provider, ask for a diabetes education referral. Ask to see a nutritionist.
And that's part, I think, with the disparities that exist among healthcare. Oftentimes people don't know the questions to ask. They don't know that those things are available for them. So we certainly thank you for taking your time to educate and doing it in such a phenomenal way. If individuals wanted to come to see you, how could they contact you? Can you share the information?
Yes. My office phone number is 615-291-9923. I'm located at 607 West Due West Avenue, Suite 97. I would love the honor and privilege to provide care for anyone in our community.
Thank you so much. Listen, what would be your final words to our audience on today?
You are responsible for the state of your health. If you have a healthcare provider, demand that they are accountable for your health. Listen to their wisdom. Go with what research says, not with what they say. It's time for flu and COVID immunizations. Many in our community refuse to get immunizations. And I ask why. Well, you know they say. Well, you know they say. And my question is, who died more from COVID than anybody else? The African American community. Who dies from the flu more than anybody else? The African American community. Get your immunizations. Understand, educate yourself about your state of health. I dissuade people from going on the internet when they have a problem. I say, ask me. But you can go on the internet and understand what diabetes is. You can go on the internet and understand what hypertension is. Take your medications. Once the stroke has happened, I can't fix that. Once you're blind because of your diabetes, I can't fix that. You need to work with your healthcare provider to optimize your health. And think about your children. If you would jump into shark-infested waters to save your baby, if you would do hand-to-hand combat because somebody has broken into your house to harm your family, if the house is on fire and you're going to get all of your babies out, can you stop smoking? Can you figure out what good nutrition is? Can you deal with your own mental health? If you don't deal with your mental health issue, then it becomes part of the legacy that you pass on to your children. You can't help your genetics. Often, mental health issues are genetically mediated, just like other diseases are, but they don't have to define you or limit you. But if you refuse, if you absolutely refuse to admit you have an issue and get some help, you then pass that on to your children.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you again for joining us.
Oh, this was
Appreciate
awesome. Thank you so much.
We have to bring you back at another time.
I'd love to come.
Listen, remember, you are fearfully and you're wonderfully made. Marvelous is God's works that your soul knows right well. Take care of your health. Take care of your mind. Take care of your body. We bless you. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again on next week.